Coming up on the bench, the struggles continue for Syracuse men's basketball. SU played a close one at home with North Carolina before a trip to Pittsburgh. It's been a down year for the Orange, but these games seem different. Could Adrian Autry's crew get back on track with a pair of ACC victories?
And don't look now, but Syracuse women's basketball flew out west with back-to-back wins under its belt. The backcourt duo of Sophie Burrows and Georgia Woolley is heating up, but can they continue the great reputation of guard play out in the Golden State?
On the turf, both Syracuse lacrosse teams were in action over the past couple days. First, they had tough tests down in Maryland. While that ended in mixed results, the women's squad then hosted Cornell. Stay tuned to find out if the Cuse had enough to outlast its old foes.
Playoffs? Playoffs? No, not the Four Nations playoff. That's later. That's right. The AHA postseason bracket is set, but Syracuse women's ice hockey position was not set before they headed into a doubleheader against Mercyhurst this weekend. How did the Orange fare in those games, and who are they playing in their first playoff game in 2 years? 45 minutes of OTB. Let's roll.
Welcome, welcome, welcome inside our Citrus TV studios for another edition of On the Bench. Skyler Wilkes with Ryan Bridges. Ryan, I'm a little thrown off. This is not our living room.
No, it's not, but it's still very comfy. We're very happy.
It is very comfy, but I'm beyond excited to be doing this show for our final semester with you. We've had a lot of great sports conversations sitting on the couch, but now with a camera in front of us, it should be even more fun.
It will be just as fun, and we certainly have great athletes to talk about as well.
Oh yeah, speaking of great athletes, it's been a down year for Syracuse men's basketball, but Carmelo Anthony, a program legend, has a chance to join basketball immortality. The All-Star was officially announced as one of 17 finalists for the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. Throughout his 19-year NBA career, the forward was a 10-time All-Star and landed on 6 All-League teams. Obviously, you can't forget Anthony's historic season on the Hill. The National Freshman of the Year guided the Orange to their first and only championship in program history.
Syracuse football's offense broke countless records in 2024 and brought in a great recruiting class. But two of the biggest reasons behind those two things are on their way out the door. SU's wide receivers coach Ross Douglas and the team's general manager Nate McNeil are both exiting. Douglas moves on to Oregon to be its wide receivers coach, while McNeil becomes Illinois' executive director of player evaluations and acquisitions. Say that 10 times fast. Syracuse's top 3 receivers notched over 1,000 more receiving yards than they did a year ago, and the Orange's recruiting class ranked 37th, while its transfers were inside the top 25 at 24th.
So while some guys are on the move, you've got one player here for now 5 years. Attacker Emma Ward has been named the Division I Women's Player of the Week by USA Lacrosse Magazine. Comes after the grad student tallied 3 goals and 4 assists in Syracuse's win over 7th-ranked Maryland on Saturday. The honor doesn't even include yesterday's performance that featured another hat trick and 2 more dimes. Through 3 games this season, Ward has the 2nd most points in the ACC and 6th most in the country.
And in college basketball, it's never fun when you're sitting right on the bubble. And Syracuse men's basketball and North Carolina Skyler are both hanging by a thread right now. The difference is that the Orange sit just 1.5 games clear of elimination, but from the ACC tournament. Meanwhile, the Tar Heels sit at 14-11 and sit on ESPN Joe Lunardi's last 4 out of the big dance. So who gave themselves a bit of a breather on a Saturday afternoon inside the Dome? Let's head out there where 2 ACC powerhouses match up. North Carolina has lost their last 4 road games, but you couldn't tell by the way they scored the ball in the first half. Ian Jackson picks the pocket of Chris Bell and slams it down on him. 16 first half points for Jackson. Jaquan Carlos throws it inside. Peter Majstorovic with the layup. Carlos 7 assists in this one of his better distributing games, but Ian Jackson makes him look silly out on the perimeter. 4 of 6 from downtown in the first half was Jackson, and North Carolina, used that great 3-point shooting to give themselves an 8-point lead at the break. RJ Davis gets the friendly roll. JJ Sterling only 2 points in the first half, 20 in the second half. That and one right there brings it to a tie game, 60-all between the Orange and the Tar Heels with 10 minutes to go. Eddie Lampkin, a career-high 26. He and Sterling, 37 of the 48 second-half points, but they couldn't guard a lick, and especially against Jalen Withers. Went on an 8-0 run by himself in the second frame. RJ Davis corrals the rebound. Withers goes right at Eddie Lampkin. Tough layup, another and one. Withers, though, did have a bit of an issue right here. Turns it over. J.J. Starling, the and one. The Orange play really good defense in the full court. They're only down 2 with a minute left, but Jaquan Carlos is blown by Elliot Cadeau. He lays it up. North Carolina goes on to make its free throws and beat Syracuse by 6. They snap their 4-game road losing streak. And, I mean, the guard play that Syracuse had out there, Skyler, it does not bode very well for defense. When J.J. Starling was sitting on the bench in that first half, they had Kyle Cuff and Jaquan Carlos out there. They can't stop anybody.
Defense has been an issue all year long for Syracuse. They've been one of the worst scoring defenses in the entire ACC. But I think the number that stands out to me the most is that 3 points made by North Carolina at 13. That tied a season high that they set back on the season opener against Elon. So now Syracuse and Elon, the Orange and Phoenix, on the same level there.
They're on the same level, and this Syracuse team is on that same level with a lot of those teams that don't have great net rankings right now. They're outside the top 150. Not a pretty season for Syracuse men's basketball.
You can say that again, Ryan. And although Syracuse came up just short against UNC, it had a chance to exact revenge at Pittsburgh. SU lost to Pitt by 4 less than a month ago, but some things have changed since then. The Panthers had lost 8 of their last 11, which included 2 separate 4-game skids. Still, you never know what's going to happen when former Big East rivals meet for the 128th time. Syracuse trying to avoid its second 3-game losing streak of the season. And believe it or not, things actually started off on a positive note. J.J. Starling attacks the basket, gets the layup to go. That was part of a 9-0 run for the Orange. The Panthers didn't score for the first 5 minutes of the game. SU had a 16-point lead at the 10:54 mark and had a 70% chance to win through the first 9 minutes, but the Panthers came roaring back. J.J. Starling trying to keep them at bay, though, with one of his 11 first-half points, but you can't do that. A careless pass turns into a Zach Austin layup. That cuts the deficit to 7 for the Panthers. 3-point shooting, that's where it was at for the Orange. 9 first-half threes, 4 of which came from Chris Bell, and SU led by 7 at the break. The Panthers, though, came alive. Ish Leggett finished with a team-high 19 points, 13 of which came in the second half. That's 10 more than J.J. Starling, who you see just turn the ball over. Jalen Lowe with a layup. That tied the ballgame up at 51 with almost over 13 minutes to go. Ish Leggett, another 3-pointer. That gives Pitt its first lead of the game. 9.5 minutes left to play. Zach Austin puts on the finishing touches with a layup. Now Pitt up by 9 with 5 minutes left, and Austin gets to bask in the glory. Hammers it down with 2 hands. Pittsburgh outscores Syracuse by 18 in the second half and wins 80-69. Our Chloe Smars was in the Steel City to tell us more.
It's been a theme for SU men's hoops all season long. The ability to play a full 40 minutes of basketball has been hard to come by, and here in the Steel City, it didn't get much easier. SU has now dropped 3 straight games, 80-69 the final here in favor of the Panthers. The Orange played one of their strongest first halves of basketball that we have seen all season, at one point going on a 22-6 run and nailing 9 threes in the first half. The Panthers only led for 9 minutes of this game, but that was all they needed to secure a win. Head coach Adrian Autry addressing the defensive concerns that he has as for why Pitt lit it up offensively.
We've been in those games, and then it comes a moment where, you got to get a possession, and then we have too many empty possessions late in the second half as well. And again, it's not like these are not like difficult turnovers. These are like trying to throw the ball into the post. Like, I don't get it. I thought Pitt, every time we didn't do a defensive assignment, they made us pay. That's what I thought. They got the stops, and we couldn't get the stops.
Just trying to play for 40 minutes total. I mean, the coaches talk about it all the time. It's really up to us on how we play on defense and keeping that energy up. So
we need to win these next 4 games to get to the postseason. So I feel like if we do that, execute, we need to make a run and just show everybody that we're not the team that how we've been playing, and just we're a better team that we've been playing.
And for the Orange, they won't get back on the court for another week. They welcome in NC State to the JMA Wireless Dome next Wednesday. That game, critical postseason implications. Syracuse is the last team in as of now, and NC State is the first team out for the ACC tournament. That tip-off is set for 7 p.m. But for now in Pittsburgh, Chloe Smars, Citrus TV.
Chloe, thanks so much. You see that graphic right there. Syracuse allowing 80-plus points in 5 straight games for the first time since the 1981-82 season. That's not a good number.
No, it's not at all. And I think a lot of this happened, though, because Syracuse was just missing easy shots down the stretch, Skyler. They missed like 3 straight shots in that second half that led to that onslaught. I heard Alan Griffin talk today, though, and he said that even when they were up 16 in that first half, they knew it was going to start coming down on them, and it was going to be a close game in the end. So this team just doesn't believe that they can keep those leads in the first place.
And Chloe talked about it, an inability to play a full 40 minutes. That's something that Syracuse, deja vu is the perfect way to describe it. Time in and time again, you see that happening. And so it's been a rough year for Syracuse men's basketball, 2 straight losses this week. Syracuse women's basketball, though, had a chance to turn fortunes around out on the West Coast. Could the Orange get the job done? Well, you got to stay tuned to find out.
But here's the thing about lung cancer. By the time you see the symptoms, it could be too late. But now, there's a new scan that can detect lung cancer early when it's more curable. If you smoked, get scanned. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
Welcome back into OTB. I'm Ryan Bridges. That's Skyler Wilkes over there. ACC teams traveling to California is still something we're all getting used to, right, Skyler? And the same can be said about Syracuse women's basketball's opponent on Thursday in Stanford. The Cardinal held a 1-8 record on the road, but were 10-3 at home heading into the battle with Syracuse. So while they might be in the middle of the pack at the ACC, a game at Maples Pavilion, Skyler, is one of the toughest games on the schedule for Syracuse, and they traveled out there for a midweek clash, taking them on inside Maples Pavilion. Let's go out to Palo Alto, see how this one went down for Syracuse, the first of 2 on a California road trip. And we remember how the men's team started out against Stanford on the road in the same building. Not really well, 25-2 the deficit there. Women's basketball started out about the same way. They shot 5 of 19 in the first quarter. Chloe Clardy picks the pocket and scores one of her 5 steals. Sanaya Wilson, the baseline jumper, she had 6 points in this one. They also shot 0 of 5 from downtown. Clardy connects there, 3 of her 14 points. On to the second quarter, Syracuse down already by 15. They do force a stop here, and they give it right back. Another steal for Clardy. Mid-range jumper is good. Stanford up by 15 going into the halftime break. They had 20 points off 11 Syracuse giveaways coming out of into the second half. Olivia Schmidt knocks down the 3 ball, but Syracuse still playing at a deficit. Kyra Wood gives it up. Tess Heel the other way. That's the easiest bucket she'll have in her life. Roll on to the fourth quarter. More steals, though, this time for Syracuse. Dominique Camp picks the pocket. These are only 2 points in this matchup. Syracuse tried a lot of desperation shots towards the end, but shot 1 of 6 from 3 in the third quarter. You're not coming back from a 20-point deficit like that. Heel lays it in, and just to add insult to injury, Stanford, great ball movement here, bringing it around. Steven passes off to Kennedy Yume, and they score once again. Orange fall by 21 points.
So a 21-point loss isn't ideal, but the Orange didn't have much time to dwell on it. SU stayed out on the West Coast to take on Cal for just the second time ever. Some important information on the ACC newcomers. They're in the cusp of the top 25 and at a 13-1 record at home this season. So if it wasn't already clear, Coach Jack and company were entering the den of a fierce pack of bears and maybe some beasts too. Marshawn Lynch in attendance to watch his alma mater on the hardwood, the same building, Haas Pavilion, where Syracuse men's basketball got a win a few weeks ago, but it was Cal who started off on a high note. Lulu Twydale with a three-pointer. The Golden Bears ahead by 3 at the end of the first quarter. The Orange showing they can shoot too. Olivia Schmidt, her 4th three-pointer of the entire season, ties it up at 20, but then Schmidt, oh no, trying to do too much, and it turns into a Kayla Williams 3. That puts Cal ahead by 3 with 3 minutes left to play. Schmidt, though, had to make sure she made up for it. Steals the ball, passes to Shy Hawkins, who gets the layup to go right at the buzzer. Syracuse ahead 35-34 at the half, and the second half is where things really got wonky. 4 lead changes in the first 4 minutes. You had 12 lead changes in the entire half. And when it was all said and done in the third quarter, Syracuse was leading 54-53, and a big reason why was Georgia Woolley with 12 second half points, including this and one that put Syracuse ahead by 3. But then Lulu Twydale says, "I'm the better Australian." Hits her 3rd 3 of the game, had a team high 10 points in the second half, and then Kayla Williams puts the game on ice with a team high 21 points. That put Cal ahead by 5, and the Golden Bears end up taking care of business 75-69, and our Josh Solomon has more.
It was a tough stretch in the Golden State for Syracuse women's basketball. On Thursday, SU lost by 21 points against Stanford, and then today against Cal, a 75-69 tough loss for SU that left Orange head coach Felicia Leggett-Jack overcome by emotion.
To play for their sisters, and they really tried. They really left it out there. It's just like if Maceo had a game and, he left it out there and they might have fell short. It feels the same. These are my daughters, and I know how hard they're working, and I know how bad they wanted to help their sisters become successful. Something is going to happen miraculously at the end, and I just know it. Well, this one hurts a little bit because I know these young ladies played for their sisters, and I'm a tough coach, but I'm a big baby when it comes to these young ladies.
After today's 6-point loss, SU is just 3-7 on the road this season, and the Orange have a 4-10 record against conference opponents. Well, Syracuse heads back home, but welcome a really tough opponent in number 12 UNC on Thursday. Tip-off for that one is at 6 p.m. inside the Dome. I'll be covering it for Citrus TV. But here, reporting from Berkeley, California, Josh Solomon, Citrus TV.
Well, Josh, a great job. Thanks for trekking all the way out there to deal with the Calgorithm. And this game was just the epitome of hot potato, back and forth. You look at the points per possession, Cal at just over 1, Syracuse just under 1. I mean, that's really just how close it was. 13 total ties throughout, and it's been the same story for SU. 4 ACC losses by single digits.
And I bet those points per possession would have been above 1 if they just didn't give away the ball so much in transition. Even one time in the backcourt, we saw it on the highlights. Syracuse just with the easy giveaways. I gotta say though, Georgia Woolley is getting more used to being the alpha on the team. Had a struggle to the season at the very start. Wasn't the most efficient player, but her and Burroughs have started to heat up, and that's why they had those back-to-back wins before they got out there. Something that's a good sign for Syracuse.
It absolutely is, Ryan, and that's why Syracuse women's basketball is potentially on the come up again when they return to the Salt City.
And coming up, we've got a few more ranked teams on the hill. Syracuse men's lacrosse and women's lacrosse. We're in College Park this weekend taking on some top 10 battles against Maryland. We'll have all those highlights coming up in just a bit.
Do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
1 in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. That means it could be you, your favorite brother, your other brother, you, your football buddy, your football buddy, you, your plumber,
Breathe right into your foot.
your plumber's masseuse,
Yes.
you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. With early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back into On the Bench from our Citrus TV studio. Ryan Bridges, Skyler Wilkes. Skyler, what do you love most about sports? A lot to pick from.
Yeah, there is a lot to pick from. I don't think I could choose. Probably maybe the passion, the energy, and really the fact that we're here. Neither of us would be here without sports. Same goes for our good friends Ian Nicholas and Alex Ramol.
That's very true. But what I love most, and it's more of a phenomenon, but it's that once the season ends, you have to climb that mountain all over again. The doubts were cleared up last season for Syracuse men's lacrosse, especially when it came to their ability to play against those top 10 opponents, something that nagged Gary Gait for years and years. But one of the few obstacles that SU did not overcome in 2024 was Maryland. In fact, the Orange's overtime loss in the Dome last year was the most recent of 6 straight defeats to the Terps heading into Saturday. But could they pull it off this time in College Park? They had to snap that 6-game losing streak against Maryland, and John Tillman, since he's gotten there, hasn't lost to Syracuse, a perfect 6-0. Also won 78% of his games down there in the DMV. But Syracuse started out early with the scoring. Trey Deer, the around-the-world goal off the feed from Joey Spallina, 1-0. Let's skip ahead quickly to the second quarter. Braden Erksa gets the pass from Eric Spanos and fires it in past Jimmy McCool. 4-3 Maryland, and then it became the Joey Spallina show. And I just have to say, Skyler, you look at that graphic. The fact that his season low in points is 4, that is pretty amazing stuff.
He's a pretty good lacrosse player. I mean, passing has really become a specialty.
Some would say. 2 straight goals for Spallina, 5-4 lead at the break for Syracuse. A good save there by McCool. The rebound, though, falls to Elliot Dubik. Now 5-5 Maryland at that point, and this became a 4-0 run for the Terps. That time it's Daniel Kelly, and it wasn't exactly make it, take it, Skyler. The Orange won 4 out of the 6 faceoffs in that third quarter, but they just could not string together those goals. The offense, just like against Denver in the quarterfinals last season, went dormant, but it wasn't all the fault of Owen Hiltz, only other player besides Spallina to have multiple points in this one. He had a goal and an assist, but then towards the end, the Terps threw in the daggers. Bryce Ford on that goal right there. 11-7, Maryland takes it, and John Bocchio has more.
Lacrosse, and it's 11-7 loss to the Maryland Terps. In its first top 10 matchup of the season, Syracuse marched in and was up 5-4 into the break, but was outscored 7-2 in the second half on its way to its first loss of 2025. And head coach Gary Gait says, while it was a bad loss, there's still a lot of lacrosse left to play.
Certainly not happy with today, and we're going back to practice this week and get ready for a long season ahead. This is certainly doesn't make a season here, but hopefully it makes it by encouraging our guys to do a little extra, a little bit more, and work harder to improve so that we can be successful the next time we play in a game like this.
Although it was a 4-goal loss for the Orange, the stats looked nearly identical. Turnovers, face-off, effectively even, and Coach Gates said that although it was pretty similar in the stat column, still Maryland executed when it needed to.
You know, we had more shots, they had one more face-off, even on saves, like everything was the same. But it's opportunist making plays. They did a better job of scoring a goal when they needed it, getting a ground ball when they needed it, you know, but you know, ground balls were even, face-off, everything was even, but their players made the plays.
SU looks to rebound a week from today against Harvard. Face-off for that game is at 1. Reporting from CQ Stadium, John Bocchio, Citrus TV.
And Skyler wouldn't shut up about it before the highlights came on, but in case you didn't know, Maryland dominates Syracuse as of late. And these games aren't exactly blowouts. I put this one on the offense personally. Jimmy McCool allows the same amount of goals as Will Mark. Johnny Mullen goes 50-50 at the faceoff. What happened for Syracuse in this one? Why do they always lose to Maryland?
I don't know. I couldn't explain to you why they always lose, but you're right. I mean, Ajax Apatello is no longer in College Park. Syracuse has the potent offense that could have taken over this game, but 7 straight losses, haven't won in College Park since 1995. It is not a good look there for the Orange. But sticking in the DMV, Syracuse women's lacrosse also had a top 10 battle with Maryland. While the Orange dominated in their season opener, Syracuse had a chance to bounce back there against Albany, and they won 21-9. Meanwhile, Maryland has really had the upper hand against them as well. Just for some context though, UMD went 14-6 last year, which included an overtime victory in the Dome. So I think it's pretty safe to say that SU was determined to secure its second ever win in College Park. Like I mentioned, a 12-point victory over UAlbany to start the season. Speaking of starting strong, Emma Ward, less than 2 minutes in, finds the back of the net to get the Orange on the board first, but she wasn't done. Doing what she does best, dodging from X, backing down her defender, and whoop, BTB finds the net. Emma Ward contributed to each of the first 5 goals for SU. The Terps wouldn't go away quietly though. Corey Edmondson with a free position goal had it 5-3 Syracuse at the end of the first quarter. The Terps though trying to inch closer right at point blank range, Lauren Lapointe, but she's saved by Daniela Gayette, who made 11 saves. That's the same amount that she had all of last season. SU now adds 7-3, and a familiar face for the Terps, Emma Muchnick, takes it in her revenge game. 2 goals against her former team, SU up 8-4 at the half. The Terps still showing some life though. Corey Edmondson with a player-up goal, her 18th career hat trick. That cuts the deficit to 4 for the Terps. The Orange trying to keep their foot on the gas, leading by 4 here with 5 minutes left. Melina Cotter catches, fires, and scores. That puts SU ahead 13-6 at the end of the third quarter, and Olivia Adamson puts the icing on the cake. A team-high 4 goals for the senior. Syracuse wins 15-9 to start 2-0 for the 4th time in 5 years. A very strong start for the Orange, and a big reason why is Emma Ward, who has just been absolutely ridiculous to start the year. 11 straight games with a goal, 10 of which included multiple scores.
And there's so many different areas of the field that she can dominate at. In this Cornell game, we're going to show you, she didn't play behind X as much, but that's where she really dominated with those first 5 goals that Syracuse had. And they weren't really winning well at the draw control circle either. So it was really, really good that she was there to help that offense be more efficient and get Syracuse out to that big lead. And eventually they were able to hold on, as you just saw. Okay, a little good, a little bad. What's left? Well, look no further than the ugly that is that is Cornell women's lacrosse's record when facing Syracuse. The Orange had won the last 16 battles against the Big Red going into Tuesday. So a little bit of a David and Goliath situation going on here. Syracuse hasn't fallen to Cornell since 2006. And that was, of course, on the road because Syracuse is 12-0 against the Big Red inside the JMA Wireless Dome, but didn't look so good early for Syracuse. Early on, Ella Wilmot on the breakaway. Cornell scores in transition. Didn't hold up for very long. Olivia Adamson ties the game at 2-2 off of the free position. The party did not stop there for Adamson, especially after Alexa Vogelman drops the ball on the ground. She picks it up and throws it in. Syracuse up 5-2 at this point, really started to extend their lead at the end of that first quarter. They're up 6-2 as they head into the second. One of the best goals you'll see all day. Molly Gusit goes behind the back right there. Syracuse up 10-3 at that point, but Cornell started to get a little momentum going into the halftime break. It helped them out in the third quarter. Alexa Donahoe scores there, and then Donahoe pays her teammate Maggie Pons back from injury on a minutes restriction, but she was out there to help the Big Red, but not much help could arrive that would dispel the Syracuse run. Adamson on the breakaway got the feed from Daniela Gayette, fades it off to Gracie Britton. Her first career hat trick came alive at the end of last season, now starting to develop into another great attacker, and Ellie Horner leaves her cage wide open. That's too easy for Emma Ward. She finishes, and the scoring was not done just there. Carly DeSimone, her first goal in orange in 18-10, the final between Cornell and Syracuse. And Skyler, one of the better games we've seen out of Daniela Gayet as of late. Cornell tries to mix it up with the goalies. It comes to no avail, but Gayet is one of those big question marks for Syracuse. If they want to make it to championship weekend, go further than they ever have, they need her to step up big.
Well, huge shoes to fill in the departure of Delaney Schweitzer, but Gayet with 14 saves against Cornell, that's one short of Schweitzer's career high with the Orange. She's now 3rd in the ACC in saves and 10th in the country. So only 3 games into her career as a college starting goalie, and Daniela Gayet has exceeded expectations.
Yeah, and they're going to need her to keep up those expectations, especially for the road that they have after this, Skyler, at number 2 UNC. And then you mentioned Delaney Schweitzer. After that, they play her number 3 Northwestern squad after this. But that's enough lacrosse talk. I know it was a lot. We're going to go out to the rink. Syracuse women's ice hockey finished up its regular season with a doubleheader against Mercyhurst over the weekend. We have the highlights of that after this short break.
Here we go. We're gonna go out there in the rain. It's gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Oh, look at the rain. Okay, quick. Oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. We're getting so wet.
On the bench, rolls on here with Ryan Bridges. I'm Skyler Wilkes. Ryan, you're a Southern California guy. Were you a big hockey fan growing up?
No, not exactly. They didn't have many rinks out in sunny San Diego. Hard for the ice to not melt at 70 degrees.
Well, I'm glad you came to Syracuse then, because it's almost time for the AHA playoffs, so you better be watching, because Syracuse ice hockey is heating up at the right time. Brittany Smith's squad won 5 straight ahead of its final 2 games of the regular season and had a winning record in conference play. SU hoped to maintain momentum when it hit the road to face Mercyhurst. The Orange fell to the Lakers in their first 2 meetings of the year and hoped to avoid the sweep, but Mercyhurst had won 4 of its last 6, including a 3-2 victory over number 8 Penn State the game before. And the Lakers started off strong. Marielle Parks late in the first period with the goal. It was 2-0 Lakers at the end of the first period. The Orange now trailing 2-1, a pass in front, and Bryn Sorella slots her 16th goal of the season. And just like that, the Orange tied it up at 2 heading into the third period. A scrum in front of the net, and Tia Johansson is the lucky recipient of that one. Puts the Lakers in front 3-2. Just a minute later, Mick Todd, her 2nd goal of the season, ties the game up at 3. Syracuse celebrating, they're back in it. But Mercyhurst got 1 more goal, and then an empty net for the Orange, trying to do anything they can, but to no avail. Tia Johansson with her 3rd career hat trick, 1st of the season, and the Lakers hold on to beat the Orange 5-3 in Game 1 of the doubleheader.
So Syracuse's momentum stopped a little bit right there, but they had another shot down in Pennsylvania the very next day. Syracuse, though, got off to a good start in this one, trying to bounce back. Wiegand, the goal on the power play. Syracuse takes a 1-1 lead, and then goes into the third period where Syracuse was stalemated in that second period, and then things started to break up. Maya Darcy, with the long-range shot. It goes Syracuse up 3-1 at that point. Mercyhurst desperate, last minute, trying to get a goal. Kylie Mahoney on the doorstep. You mentioned the open net, Skyler. Well, Syracuse paid them the favor right back the very next day. Tatum White from the other side of the rink finds the open cage. Syracuse goes on to win it 4-2. Regular season done. Skyler, what's going on in the playoffs?
Well, Ryan, we have an expert to tell you that, because I'm not necessarily keen on AHA activities. We've got our ice hockey beat reporter Ben Chadwick joining us ahead of the AHA playoffs. Syracuse plays Robert Morris in the first round. Ben, how do the Orange match up with the Colonials?
Very well. I mean, this is the best case scenario for Syracuse. They played them in the regular season 4 games. They won all 4 games in that regular season series. Their closest game, too, Skyler, was a 4-1 victory. They did that 3 times over the Colonials. You can see it on your screen right there with that 4-0 record. Syracuse averaging over 4 goals a game in those contests, and they combined for over 13 goals as well. I'm really looking at forward Brynn Sorella in this matchup on Saturday. She had a team high 6 goals and 9 total points against RMU in the season series. So it's looking pretty confident right now for Syracuse on Saturday.
All right, so Ben, you're confident. The stats kind of back up your point. So if Syracuse does prevail over Robert Morris, what is the trip, or what are the chances really for Brittany Smith's squad to win this AHA championship?
Yeah, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but if SU does go on to beat RMU, like we talked about just a couple seconds ago, they'll go on to play Mercyhurst. Now, this is a game that Ryan and Skyler both just talked about, and that season that just happened last weekend. Syracuse against Mercyhurst this season is just 1-3, but they won that most recent matchup, right? They won that 4-2, so things are looking up. This is a whole new SU team. If they go on to beat Mercyhurst in that 3-game series, they'll face the Penn State Nittany Lions. Now, it's a top 10 team in the country, and we're not going to say that they're going to win in that championship game, but in their 4 losses, which they had to Penn State this year, 2 of them were in overtime, 2 of them were by 1 goal. So if it's going to happen, it'll be because of goalie Allie Kelly and the Syracuse team. They can do it, not saying they will, but they can, Skyler.
Well, seems to be an exciting time for Syracuse ice hockey. Ben, you better buckle up, but speaking of buckle up, you listeners and viewers better buckle up, because we've got our plays of the week and top plays. You won't want to miss it.
Fancy pants peanut butter? A big screen television? You haven't even bought a sofa yet. A motorcycle? When your father finds out, he's gonna flip his shoes with 2 buckles? What do you even need 2 buckles for? Mr. Big Shot, buying whiskey shots for everybody in the bar. From the looks of it, I'd say nobody even remembers. Feed the pig.
Just about wrapping things up here on OTB. Ryan Bridges, Skyler Wilkes. We're about ready for almost our exciting time of the show, and that's our Performers of the Week. A lot of deserving athletes here, Ryan. But without further ado, let's jump in to our first Performer of the Week.
Let's do it.
None other than Daniela Gayette, the Syracuse lacrosse goalie. 11 saves against Maryland, which, like I mentioned, she had 11 saves all of last season. Then she followed that up with 14 saves against Cornell, 8 of which came in the second half. And we talked about it earlier, Ryan. She's atop the ACC standings and even really the country in that category for saves. Syracuse really getting everything it could want and more out of the redshirt sophomore.
And something that was pointed out yesterday is that somewhere on her jersey and on a little ribbon that she wears, she has the word semifinal written on there. And she wasn't even the goalie last year for Syracuse, at least the starting goalie. So the fact that she holds herself to the standard and wants to win a national championship in her first season, that's why she's playing so well right now.
Really impressive stuff from Daniela Gayette, but I know she's not the only impressive athlete.
Yeah, of course. And we talked about her a little bit earlier, starting to gain some confidence being in that #1 role. Let's go out to the hardwood. It's Georgia Woolley, 18 points against Stanford, but that was just a warm-up for what she was going to do later on in the weekend. 23 points against Cal. A really excellent week for Georgia Woolley, starting to distribute the basketball a little bit better, shooting better with efficiency from 3, 2 of 4 in that Cal game, so not forcing a ton of shots right there. She's getting more of that defensive attention this year, but Sophie Burrows also getting into the groove herself is starting to get the pressure off of Woolley just a little bit.
Well, that two-man punch is really lethal for opposing defenses. Georgia Woolley has been a really great player since she arrived on the Hill, and it's only gone up from there. She's a transfer, started her career at Buffalo, another transfer, and our next performer of the week is Allie Kelly, goalie for Syracuse Ice Hockey. 69 combined saves over the 2 games against Mercyhurst, which included becoming the program's all-time career saves leader. What's even more impressive, I don't know if it's necessarily good defensively, but she leads the nation in saves with 1,075. That's almost 80 more than the next player. It has been utterly dominant for Allie Kelly this year. What a find for Brittany Smith, and like Ben Chadwick said, she's really going to have to step up her game ahead of the AHA playoffs.
Right, and the season numbers might not look as good because they've had to play a lot of really tough opponents, a lot of top 10 opponents, and the onslaught of shots that she's facing don't look the best on the stat sheet, but someone who's looking great on the stat sheet right now is Eddie Lampkin for Syracuse men's basketball. He's come alive since that Duke game where he only had 2 points, but then 14 the next game 22, career high 26 against North Carolina, showing out against the Tar Heels, another double-double. Doesn't have the greatest game, last time out against Pittsburgh yesterday. That's why he's not on the #1 spot, but he will understand when we show it in just a second. But again, he's shooting above 50% from the field in those 3 games leading up to that Pittsburgh one. He's starting to get the ball down low. He gives up a lot on the defensive end, but he's a great offensive player, and he's given J.J. Starling a little bit of help down there too.
Definitely a strong performance there from Eddie Lampkin. Now time for the long-awaited #1 performer of the week.
They should know who it is.
They should know who it is. None other
a no-brainer.
than Emma Ward. Has been unbelievable to start the season for Syracuse. 12 points over these last 2 games for Syracuse. A hat trick in each of the first 3 games of the season. The Maryland stats there with 7 points, then followed up with 5 against Cornell. Emma Ward back for a 5th year, and she's doing some magical stuff for Syracuse. She's going to have to do some heavy lifting, picking up for her former teammate Emma Tyrell if Syracuse really wants to make a run to the national championship.
Syracuse lacrosse attackers, the gift that just keeps on giving. A lot of them balling out right now for the New York Charging. Did fall in that WLL championship to Boston, but Skyler, when I was turning on SportsCenter as a kid, I always waited till the end of the hour for the top plays of the week, and we've got 5 of them here on the Hill. Let's show them to you right now. I'll give you a little hint. Emma Ward might be featured, maybe 1 or 2 times on this one, but first we're gonna go out to College Park, but we'll go to the men's side. Luke Roa, how about the little juke move right there? He does that little split dodge at first, and then he hesitates, goes back again, gets his hands free, and finds the far side of the cage. Logan McNaney, one of the best goalies in the country. Not easy to sneak it past him, but Syracuse loses 11-7.
That was a pretty goal from Luke Rose, having a really solid start to the season. So is J.J. Starling, who steals it, converts the N1. Ian Nicholas said that was magical. The N1 play, flipping in the air, takes the contact, gets the finish to go, and he ended the game with 22 points, 3rd straight game with 20+, even though Syracuse ended up falling to North Carolina.
J.J. Starling had a bit of a tough start to this one. Someone who didn't have a tough start was Emma Ward in this game against Maryland. Gets in the post right here and just throws it behind her back. You leave her 1-on-1. You let her have those eyes towards goal, those eyes in the back of her head. She can't be pushed outside the 8-meter arc. Just too effortless, looking like Joey Spallina out there. We just have to make the comparison at that point.
You mentioned Joey Spallina. You talked about Syracuse lacrosse at Maryland. I feel like, oh, this is deja vu, huh? SU and UMD, Joey Spallina, the past Trey Deer, BTB. He's got a really bright future if he can put it all together. Really talented young attackman. You saw Emma Ward and Caroline Trinkus. Well, Trey Deer said, let me get involved on this action. Puts it right by Logan McNaney. But again, SU falling to Maryland on the road.
What's that Daft Punk song? Around the world, around the world. You said deja vu. Is it the same highlight from earlier? No, because Caroline Trinkus throws the BTB pass from Emma Ward behind her back to Trinkus, who throws it BTB into the goal. Syracuse goes on to win 15-9. They are rolling right now, Skyler.
Rolling off to a 3-0 start. Quite the beginning of the year for Kayla Trainer and company, trying to get over that hump to win its first national championship. Unfortunately, I wish we could go on, Ryan, but that's all the time we have. With Ryan Bridges, I'm Skyler Wilkes. Thank you so much for tuning in to On the Bench, and we leave you with the highlight of the show. It's our images of the week.
the net. A pass in front, finds the back shot, behind the back goal. Trey Deer finish. Pass in front, a shot denied by McCool. Spallina driving, left side GLE, through the wickets and in.